Alright guys, we are going to go ahead and get started with our comparative adjectives and superlative adjectives. Two different, more kinds of adjectives to learn about. We're going to talk about comparatives, you're going to take a break, and then the second half of the video talks about superlatives. Alright, hopefully in this here we see, in the word comparative, you see compare. Well, how do you compare? What do we do? We have two different things. All right, really important idea to grasp is that comparative adjectives will have two different things, people, anything like that. In English, our comparative adjectives usually end in ER. I am smaller, taller, faster, bigger. Any of these things are all comparatives because there's always two different people or things that you're comparing. All right, in French, it's not as easy as putting ER on the adjective. Okay, we've got three different types of comparatives, kinds that we're going to talk about. Starting with more than. When I want to say I am more something than somebody else, I will use plus, then I'll throw in the adjective, and then I'll finish with que. So here are two examples. The first one, je suis plus grande que David. I am taller, which you might want to think of as more big or more tall because plus is more. Grande is our word for big or tall. Then David. Okay, I'm not grandeur. Grandeur doesn't exist. You have to use the plus and then put grande. Now check out this sentence here. We've got this word que, which means than or that. Listen to that sound at the end. Que David. When we come across a name or a thing that starts with a vowel, je suis plus grande. Where's my little? There it is. Je suis plus grande qu'Eric. We don't want Eric. We don't want that little hiccupy sound. I am taller than, this should say Eric. Don't tell. Eek. So that's more than. Now, opposite of more than is less than. We'll talk about how do I say less than. All right, we use, instead of plus here, we put moins. Moins plus the adjective plus que. So, je suis moins grande que David. I am less tall than David. Now, I could have just said I'm shorter, of course, but then I would have used plus. Je suis plus petite que blah, blah, blah. All right, so here's less than. The third kind, I've got more than, less than, and then I have things when they're the same, as much as. In French, that word is aussi. Aussi plus the adjective plus que. Je suis aussi grande que David. I am as tall as David. Okay, so those are our three comparatives. Plus grande que, moins grande que, and aussi grande que. Now this doesn't have to be a person, it can be a thing, an animal. We can compare two things, an animal and a thing, two people, an animal and a person. We can do all sorts of crazy stuff with these comparative adjectives. They actually become a lot of fun. Last thing I want to highlight about comparatives is reminding ourselves that since they are adjectives, we always have to make agreement. But you're like, well, wait a minute, there's two people I'm comparing. You're always going to make agreement with the first noun in the comparison. All right, when you're like, great, agree what? What does that even mean? That, remember, just means we change the spelling, okay? So if I'm saying Juliette is smarter than Mark, Juliette est plus intelligente. Add that E because we talked about Juliette first. If I were to reverse that sentence, then I wouldn't have to put anything. Now here, mes parents sont plus riches que moi. I've got more than one parent here, so I need to add the S at the end. Here's an example of a word that's not a name. It just means moi, me. I could say je suis plus grande que toi, than you. We can put all sorts of things at the end. Just make sure our adjective always makes agreement with the first thing that we talk about. All right, what you guys are going to do for tomorrow, all right, because we're not going to talk about superlatives tonight, is I'm going to put myself out there. I want you guys to write for me, excuse me, 3 sentences comparing yourself to me. Try and do one with plus que, one with moins que, and then one with aussi que. I can't wait to see what you got. Try not to be too mean, okay? And really, I think height jokes would be off limits because, I mean, come on, be more creative than that. All right, à demain. Okay, so we've worked a couple days with comparative adjectives. Now we're going to move on to superlative adjectives. All right, now these are a little trickier, but we can see this word in here, super. Okay, I'm no longer comparing anything. I'm going to talk about what is the most. I'm talking about one thing. In English, our superlative adjectives end in est. I am the biggest, the strongest, the tallest, the happiest, the quickest. Any of these est words, these are all superlative adjectives. All right. Now, if I'm going to be the biggest, okay, the tallest, there's only one of me. So that's the main difference between comparative adjectives and superlative. Comparative adjectives, you'll see two things because we're comparing. The superlative adjectives, we'll only see the one because it's the most of whatever category you're going to put it in. All right, here's where it gets a little funky. There are three parts to a superlative adjective in French. All right, and you kind of got to break up. Well, what does smallest means? The most small. If you can think of it in that way, these three parts will make sense. Because part one is le, la, or le, depending on the gender of what it is. If I'm the tallest woman, I would choose la. A lot of people think that, you know. I bet you didn't. All right, so the le, la, le depends on the gender and number of the noun. The next part is always plus. It never changes. And then the last part is going to be our adjective. So let's take a look at some examples. All right, remember the adjective still has to agree with the noun because it's an adjective and all adjectives agree with nouns. So if I want to say something is the biggest, I would start with le, la, or le, and then plus, and then grand, and then the spelling of grand is going to change based on what I'm talking about. If something is the strongest, once again, I would use le, la, or le, plus, fort. So say I am talking about a dog. I say that dog is the biggest. Dog is chien, it's masculine, so it would be le plus grand. Or maybe I was talking about the giraffe. La girafe is the biggest. La girafe is feminine. So la plus grande, I would add that e at the end. So that's a basic way to make our superlative adjectives. Okay? Now, we run into a little bit of trouble when we talk about where to put them in a sentence. Okay? If I'm talking about the biggest dog, okay, I do my le plus grand. Now the question is, well, where do I put that in relationship to dog? All right, most of them are going to go after the noun. But if the adjective, that is the est, if it's the biggest, if that's a Bangs adjective, I need to put it before the noun because that's what I'm used to doing with these Bangs adjectives. So the calmest animal is l'animal le plus calm. Now this is kind of whacked because look, I got a le here and a le here. And yes, that's how it works. Because calm is not a Bangs adjective. That normally goes after the noun. So I have le and plus and calm. Now if I wanted to talk about the smartest girl, same idea. The girl, the most smart. This adjective goes after la fille. You kind of got to consider these three parts as one big entity. All right, now here's an example of a Bangs adjective. The biggest animals. I've got les, because it's plural, my plus, and grand. Considering these as one entity, they're going to go in front of animal because it's a Bangs adjective. All right, that's a tricky thing that we run into every once in a while. Okay, so here are four for you to try. The richest artist, the strongest girl, the tallest giraffe, and the most interesting sculptures. I'm going to give you a hint. Numéro 3 is Bangs adjective. Okay, so try out these four and bring them in tomorrow, and we'll see how you did. À bientôt!